To me, bitterleaf soup is a perfect depiction that in every bitterness, there is always an iota of sweetness. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you want to know how this bitterleaf soup was prepared, then keep on watching. Here are the ingredients used in the preparation of this soup. First is the goat meat. You can use any protein of your choice, but if you are using a goat meat like I did here, be sure to use a male goat meat because it has lesser cooking time. So next is the fresh palm fruit. You can use palm oil as well. Next is the fresh cocoyam, which is equally called ede uri in Igbo. There are different types of cocoyam, so be sure to use ede uri when preparing native soups because each type of cocoyam gives different texture when used in cooking. Next is the dried crayfish. Next is the stocked fish and the dried fish. The black one is the dried fish while the other one is the stocked fish. I am using the ear part of the stocked fish. You can use any parts that you like, but I'm using the ear for this one. So next is the red and yellow scotch bonnet. Then next is the ogiri. This is the most important of all of these other ingredients. Without this, there is no bitter leaf, so be sure to use this. I don't know what this is called in English, but I believe you can get it from any local or native store or market. So next and definitely the last, which is the bitter leaf. This bitter leaf has already been properly washed. By washed, I don't just mean washing alone in water, like vigorously washed to remove all of its bitterness. If you want to know how this bitter leaf was washed, you can let me know in the comment section to know if I'm going to make a separate video on that, because it is a whole lot of process on its own. In addition to the ingredients are some seasoning and salt. So now that all the ingredients has been properly introduced, go ahead and start the preparation. Starting with the palm fruits, wash the palm fruits with enough water and be sure to wash away all the sand because most times it usually has a lot of sand in them. And as you're washing it, take out these little shells. After washing the palm fruit, put it in a pot and add enough water and cook the palm fruit until the fleshy part of the palm fruit is soft. I usually cook the palm fruit for at least 1 hour. This way it will be easy to extract the juice from it. You might ask yourself, why use a palm fruit instead of palm oil? Well, I would advise to use a palm fruit when making bitterleaf soup because it usually gives it a better taste. So next I am going ahead to wash the stocked fish. I'll first add some salt and then I'll pour some warm water over it and then wash very well. If you like what you're seeing so far, subscribe to this channel for more amazing content and don't forget to turn on your post notification so that you will be notified whenever I post a new video. So after washing it with the warm water, I'll go ahead and pour some cold water over it and then give it just a last wash like so. So here are the stocked fish properly washed, then set that aside. So after washing the stocked fish, go ahead and wash the dry fish as well. I like deboning this dry fish and washing it properly because this has gone through a whole lot of process like hand touching and all. So be sure to wash this dry fish very well. But if you know it's that which you prepared at home, then I don't think there's any need for you to go through the stress of washing like this. But if you got it from a local market like I did, I would advise you wash it properly because it has touched so many hands. So after deboning it, or rather after taking out the head, I'll go ahead and then debone the fish. I don't like those bones in soup, like bones everywhere. The bones from the stocked fish are already enough for me, not to come and add extra bones from the dried fish. So be sure to remove all of the bones. You might wonder, what's the essence of this dry fish in the soup? It is most certainly important because it adds a whole lot of taste and flavor to the soup. So don't omit dry fish too as well. So after the first wash with the hot water, I'll go ahead and pour a cold water over it too as well. And then after washing, I'll set that aside. So next I'm going over to wash the cocoyam. You might ask, why am I cooking the cocoyam with the back? I will advise you cook the cocoyam with the back because it makes the cooking time lesser and it makes it easier to peel. before pounding. So make sure you wash it until the water runs clear, because this too equally has lots of sand in it. So here are the cocoyams properly washed. Go ahead and add it together into the pot of the already boiling palm fruits. This way, a lot of cooking time and gas will be saved. But be sure that the palm fruit has simmered for some time. That way, it is halfway cooked before adding the cocoyam. So while the cocoyam and the palm fruits are cooking, go ahead and wash the goat meat and add it into the pot that will be used for cooking the soup. Then season the goat meat with just seasoning cubes and salt. These are basically the only things you need for this part. You might wonder, just seasoning cubes and salt? Yes, just seasoning cubes and salt. And allow the goat meat to simmer in its own juice before going ahead to add some water. So this is 15 minutes later, and you can see I allowed it to simmer in its own juice first. So I'll go ahead and then give it a quick stir. This way your meat will be more tasty. And if you notice, after stirring, I'll go ahead and just add little water. I will not add too much of water. You might ask, goat meat, won't it be too strong? No, it won't be strong, because the rest of the cooking will be done in the soup later on. Just keep on watching to see how that is done. So I'll allow this to cook for extra 15 minutes to say. And so this is it after 15 minutes. So once that is done, I'll then turn off the heat and then set it aside. You can see the little stock of water I got from it. You don't need too much stock from this, because all the stock, or rather all the water we need to use and cook this soup, will come from the palm fruits. So we don't need too much water for this particular soup, so long you are using a palm fruit. So now going back to check on the cocoyam and the palm fruits. It has already been like 1 hour by now, if not up to 1 hour 10 minutes. So to check if the cocoyam is properly cooked, just dry a fork in, and once the fork comes out clean, then you know that the cocoyam is done. So go ahead and then turn off the heat, and then set down a sieve, and then pour the content into it. After pouring, select out the cocoyam. I'm tossing it around so that I will see all of the cocoyam. So here are all the palm kernel, we can see fully cooked in addition with the cocoyam. So I'll go ahead and pour the cocoyam back into that water and set it aside so that it doesn't get cold, because we need all of this to still be hot. So first I am starting with the palm fruit. So pound it in order to separate the palm kernel from the fibers. Once you get this like so, then you know that it is time to start extracting the juice from it. So I advise you do this in a sink, because this can get a little messy. And before you start the extraction, make sure you have some warm water down. You don't need cold water for this extraction. Make sure you have some warm water down. So you can see I'm pouring the warm water all over it. Oh, and as I checked, the water was a bit too hot for me, so I'm pouring just a little cold water in order to make it less hot. But please don't make it too cold, because when you use cold water, the palm fruit, or rather would I say the palm juice, tends to saturate. So make sure you're using a warm water. So I'm squeezing out all of the oil from the fibers, and then I'm setting this aside, because I usually do this process just twice. So after doing this, then I'll then go over and then pour it into the strainer together with the pot. Like I said, it gets a whole lot of messy, so you can see all the mess. So that's why I advise for you to do this in your kitchen sink, in order not to get your kitchen floor all messy. So I'll set this aside and then do a second repeat of that. So I'm pouring the warm water all over. You might say to yourself, this is a whole lot of process. I will use a palm oil instead, but I urge you to use a palm fruit extract because you will certainly taste the difference. You can see the fibers now. Everything is looking less oily. Then you know that you have fully extracted all of its juice, so you can go ahead and throw that away. So go over and save out the extract like so. And if you are still here, it shows you're enjoying this video. Please click that like button. So here is the palm nut, which contains the palm kernel inside. You can dry this and extract the kernel from it if you like. So here is the palm fruit extract, which is basically what we need for the preparation of this soup. Over back to the pot of the goat meat. Pour the palm kernel, or rather the palm fruit extract, yes, the palm fruit extract, and do this gently because on the bottom you are still going to see some particles under it. So you can see before I went ahead to pour it, I allowed it to settle a little, just for like 2 minutes before going over to pour, because most times it usually has some particles underneath, so don't pour in those particles. So give it a quick stir. After stirring, I'll go ahead and then add the stockfish. Immerse it into the pot and then cover and allow to come to a boil. So while waiting for this mixture, or rather would I say for this to boil, then go ahead and start pounding the cocoyam. You have to do everything hot because we don't need this cocoyam to get cold, because when it gets cold it becomes difficult to pound. That is why I placed it in that hot water, because by now you can see the thing was still a bit warm, but my hand by now is already air conditioner. So you might wonder, how am I able to peel this without dipping my hand into cold water? I am used to handling hot things, but if you know you are not, please just keep a cold water on the side, so as you are doing it, be dipping your hand into it. So here is all of the back, so I'll just go ahead and throw that away and then start pounding. You might wonder, too many pounding. Don't worry, it's part of exercise. So here is the cocoyam fully pounded into a smooth paste. This took me roughly 5 to 10 minutes. So I'll go ahead and then scoop that out and set it aside. So here is the cocoyam fully pounded, so just keep it. And then now over to the scotch bonnet. You might wonder why I did not go ahead to wash the mortar. There's absolutely no need for it, because this is the last process that needs to be done. Yes, so just go over and pound the scotch bonnet like so, and then add the crayfish, pound. You can use a food processor if you want, but if you are going for that authentic flavor, I would advise you use a mortar and a pestle. Then lastly, add the ogiri. Oh, I already know what this is called now. It is called fermented locust bean. So go ahead and then add it and then pound it till you get a rough blend like so. So now all of the arm exercise is done. Someone shout hallelujah. So going over to the pot containing the goat meat, the stockfish, and the palm fruit extract. Most certainly the content should have boiled by now. Add the blended ingredients, that's the crayfish, the scotch bonnet, and the ogiri. So give it a quick stir like so, and then cover and allow it to simmer for 2 minutes, 2 minutes at most. Once it is 2 minutes, go ahead and add the cocoyam. As you're adding the cocoyam, use the spoon to break it into little bits so that it can quickly dissolve. And if you have clusters of the paste like so, just shake the spoon into the pot so that the clusters will drop back into the pot. So after adding the cocoyam, go ahead and cover the pot and allow it to dissolve for a little while. Once it is halfway dissolved, add the washed dried fish. You can see for the preparation of the soup itself, it takes no time. What usually takes bulk of the time is the preparation of the ingredients. So after adding the dried fish, go ahead and stir. And after stirring, add the washed bitter leaves. After adding the washed bitter leaves, add some seasoning cubes. And then some salt. So after adding the seasoning cube and the salt, stir, and after stirring, leave the pot open. Don't cover the pot after adding the bitter leaves. I have come to realize that when the bitter leaves are added and the pot covered, it tends to release some bitterness. So to avoid this, leave the pot open so that the bitter leaf can soften, because it is quite a hard leaf. So while the bitter leaf is softening, the cocoyam is equally dissolving alongside. This should take roughly 5 to 10 minutes. So once that is done, give it a final stir and then check for salt if the need be. You can serve this with any swallow of your choice, be it fufu, garri, semovita, whatever might be your preference. Go ahead and give it a try if you haven't. Until I come your way again, keep cooking and keep living. Bye.